how do we avoid judging others? Maybe it's like, how do I avoid murdering someone else? Maybe it's so profoundly simple. We are back with another daily reflection on the Daily Vedantic, and today's reflection, I recorded it while we were traveling. So all you lucky listeners will get to listen to the voice note on this episode. Let's get into it. Welcome back to another reflection on the Daily Vedantic. Am I going to do something crazy for this introduction? Is a double dab crazy? For those that are listening and not watching, I'm not going to describe what I just did. You're going to have to go to YouTube and look at it for yourself. Today's reflection is going to be a short and sweet one. This is came from one of the members of the Venice Vedanta Club. He went to India, went to the ashram. Or no, I actually went to Pune because that's where Swami was. He wanted to, after about a year of study, he was like, I got to meet this Swami guy. And Swami he's 97. So who knows how much longer we got with old Swamiji. But the member of Venice Vedanta Club went to see Swami, and he asked, one of the questions he asked was, how do I avoid judging others? And as the story was relayed to me, Swami just looked at him and said, do not judge others. It's kind of emphatically simple. Easier said than done, but emphatically simple. Simple of like, if you're advising a child, you don't tell them how to not play in traffic. You just say, don't play in traffic. Don't play in the middle of the street. More interesting than that emphatically simple answer was the next 5 questions. Swami would just answer the exact same refrain. Do not judge others. What about this? How do I avoid this or that? Do not judge others. And it was almost kind of comical because he had these questions written out for this big trip, and just answer after answer, do not judge others. It's helpful when we know philosophically within Vedanta, the definition of sin is that which dissipates energy within us. There's no real concept of sin. There's no real concept of evil, that which dissipates energy. We're not punished for a sin in this philosophy. There's no real cosmic punisher to punish us. Let me take that qualifier out. There is no cosmic punisher that punishes us. You touch a hot stove, you're punished by that action, not from some cosmic scorekeeper. You lie, cheat, steal, act selfishly, any selfish act whatsoever comes with agitation, mental agitation. Find one unhappy, unpeaceful, selfless individual in the world, and it can't be done. Find one happy, peaceful, extremely peaceful, unagitated, really selfish person. Think of your most selfish friend. Think about that person in your head. They're also likely the most agitated. It has to be a real friend. It can't be someone you read about or you think like, oh, well, that person's really rich, they must be peaceful. You got to actually know them. And the benefit of that is then you know, okay, yeah, they're about as agitated as they come. Oh, we all have those friends. And this philosophy tells us it's because of those selfish actions that they create those mental agitations. This philosophy also redefines evil. It's not something that is supernatural and possesses someone, and then they do evil things. There's no real concept of evil within Vedanta. It's simply defined as someone bereft of a guide. It's a quote that Swami he'll quote this often of wickedness. The quote that Swamiji will say often is, "Happy and blessed is the hour when wickedness stands forth as goodness bereft of a guide." Instead of someone being evil, and that's just them, it's binary and they can't change it, or evil existing, or this community of people being evil, they are merely goodness bereft of a guide. And any goodness that you or I have is both innate, any ethical decisions or actions we make, it's both innate to our goodness within us and the result of us just having great guides. Therefore, it becomes much easier to not judge when we realize, man, I just had the good fortune of having a dozen great guides in my life that I didn't ask for, that I didn't do anything to deserve. I was just born into it, into a community of great guides. It's not me just rising through like a rose through concrete. It's more like, no, you're planted as a rose seed in a bed of roses. Similarly, or by the same token, see someone that is acting out what you think is evil. Instead of judging it as evil or something you would never do, put yourself in their shoes. As my good friend Pete Holmes would often say, is it's so helpful to look at someone doing something that you think you would never do and say, if I were them, yeah, I would be them. If you had their experiences, their lack of good guides, you quite probably would be them as well. There's a scene of someone that was so like purely evil, someone that got a sniper rifle, went to the top of the clock tower in Austin and was shooting people. This was in the 70s, I believe. And he wrote a note before he went and did that and said, "Examine my brain, something is off." 300 years ago, would have just been patently clear that person's evil. In the 70s, they had the ability to not just read the note, but they dissected his brain and found a tumor the size of a grapefruit. It was pushing up against different parts of his brain that were making him erratic. Is that evil? Is that being possessed by some supernatural evil spirit? Or, and we look at it and say, oh, I would never do that. Or is that a circumstance that might warrant the phrase, man, if I were them? As evil as that seems, maybe I'd be them too. And what great, wildly great fortune do I have to not be them? To have been given the guides that I've been given, or to have been given the circumstance where that behavior just seems completely anathema to us. Happy and blessed is the hour when wickedness stands forth as goodness bereft of a guide. Such a great answer to the question of how do we avoid judging people when we think we're on some high and mighty spiritual path that others, well, they don't see it because they're not as special or as developed. Maybe if they were you, they'd be doing the exact same thing. And maybe if you were them, same holds true. How do we avoid judging others? Maybe it's like, how do I avoid murdering someone else? Maybe it's so profoundly simple. Don't do it. And that was today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.